Hi, if you're preparing for English speaking and writing test, welcome. In today's video, I'm gonna do a mock test of IELTS speaking part 1. Hi, my name is Suguru and I have gotten 8.5 in IELTS speaking. If I can do that, so can you. Now let's get started. Well, I don't use a lot of paper every day. I sometimes print out some documents from an internet website or my email. And every time I do that, I use, I don't know, 2, 3, or 4 sheets of paper. So it's not a huge amount of paper. So I use not more than 10 pieces of paper each day. Yes, I do. Absolutely. I definitely feel comfortable writing on paper. On the other hand, typing on the keyboard does not really agree with me. For example, when I was a student, whenever I had to memorize the spelling of English words, I used to write it down on paper. And this is how I was able to memorize the spelling of each English word very effectively. I don't think I could have memorized the spelling so fast if I typed, all the English words on a keyboard. So when it comes to study, writing on paper seems to be quite effective. Weakness. Well, one major weakness is that paper burns. So if you have paper-based records of important information or maybe old albums with, printed out photos, then if there's a fire in your house, then, all those records will be permanently gone. So if you don't want to let that happen, then you would be advised to save all the data on the internet, like Google Drive. So that's one problem. Another drawback is that paper yellows over time. So if you still have this letter that you wrote when you were a teenager, for example, by the time you are 50 or 60 years old, this paper will have a kind of yellowish tint. But I don't think that's a huge problem. I don't think so. I don't think so because, still many people are using paper, whether it's, some forms that they submit to the city office or some, notebooks or textbooks or workbooks. Paper is everywhere, ubiquitous in today's society. So, as I said earlier, there are many advantages to using paper. So I think people will still be using paper alongside digital devices. Okay, now let's review my responses in relation to these 4 criteria. The first one to consider is fluency and coherence. Coherence means how you have developed the topic. And let's take a listen to this part of my response. If you still have this letter that you wrote when you were a teenager, for example, by the time you are 50 or 60 years old, this paper will have a kind of yellowish tint. I had been asked about one problem of paper, and I said, let's say you had a letter that you wrote when you were a teenager, but by the time you are 50 or 60 years old, the paper will have a yellow tint. Tint means color. So this is a very detailed explanation of how the quality of paper can decline over time. So I want you to imitate the amount of detail or the amount of information that I provide here. So please remember, you should go into detail whenever possible. Okay, next, pronunciation. For pronunciation, it's important not to sound flat. You need intonation. Watch this. And this is how I was able to memorize the spelling of each English word very effectively. Very effectively. Very effectively. Do you notice I stress the word very? You can do this rather easily. Every time you say the word very, you should emphasize it as much as possible. So don't just say very effectively. You should say very effectively. Let's practice that with another sentence. You read this sentence aloud first. Are you ready? Go. Did you emphasize very? I'll go. He said, it's very hot in here. He said, it's very hot in here. Okay, let's go resource. Typing on the keyboard does not really agree with me. Typing on a keyboard does not agree with me. Typing on a keyboard does not agree with me. If something does not agree with me, it means it is not suitable for me. Does not agree with me. Okay, lastly, grammar. To get a high score for grammar, you need to use a range of sentence forms. Watch this. I don't think I could have memorized the spelling so fast if I typed, all the English words on a keyboard. I could not have memorized the spelling so fast if I typed it on a keyboard. I could not have memorized the spelling so fast if I typed it on a keyboard. This is an example of subjunctive mood. Subjunctive mood. Subjunctive mood is used when you are talking about something that never happened or something that you never did. When I was a student and every time I tried to memorize the spelling of a word, I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I never typed it on a keyboard. But if I typed it on a keyboard, I could not have memorized it so fast. By the way, a very grammar picky person might say, shouldn't that be if I had typed instead of if I typed? That's true. Grammatically speaking, if I had typed, it's more accurate. But in daily conversation, especially among Americans, it's more common to say if I typed instead of if I had typed. Let's get familiar with subjunctive mood using another example sentence. You might have had a stomachache if you had eaten the old pasta. You might have had a stomachache if you had eaten the old pasta. So you did not eat the old pasta, but if you had eaten the old pasta, you might have had a stomachache. As I said, if you had eaten, it's more grammatically correct, but you can also say, especially in a speaking test, if you ate the old pasta. They're both fine. Alright, I hope you found this video useful. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and most importantly, let me wish you good luck on your test.